Good morning. I'm so happy to say that. I'm Carolyn Moore, Board President and Worship Associate this morning to welcome you to our service. Today is a special day, our first in-person worship service since March of 2020. We're so grateful to be able to be here this morning, and especially grateful to all of the volunteers who have helped to make this Sunday possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so you'll have to bear with us taking the masks on and off as we speak. So I have a few kind of announcements before we begin. First, yes, I am so glad to be able to be back in person with you all to worship together this morning. And I am so grateful to all of the people who have helped to make this happen, the people that have been ushers, who have made the coffee, the people who are helping us to stream this live right now, the people who have made the sound happen. There's more people to thank than I could even do, so thank you. I also want to say that I am sure that a few things this morning will go wrong, and I invite you to laugh and have a sense of humor. It's really important for us to do that. Additionally, I want to say that we are not quite ready to be able to sing together. It's hard to say, and I know we all wish that we could. But I invite you this morning as we listen to our music to hum along, to let the words kind of wash over you, to appreciate it still. So thank you. Finally, after our worship service concludes, we invite you to exit this way towards the labyrinth and join us for coffee outside, to greet each other, greet someone you've not yet met, and we'll have our fellowship out there this morning. I also want to note that during the offertory, we won't be passing baskets, but instead we do have a basket set up over there to visit on your way out. And I said finally, but I have one more thing to say, and then we'll get started. I want to acknowledge the beautiful artwork that is around the edges of our sanctuary and invite you to take a look at that in your own time. The artist is Nancy Sterling Tyler, who is a Texas native. She won Best of the Show of the Visual Art League of Louisville at the Louisville Grand Theater exhibit this summer. And she said that she is inspired by the outdoors, by people, and by colors. So we are so grateful to have her work adorning our sanctuary this morning and the beauty it lends to us. So in that spirit of gratitude, our worship service will now begin.
Our call to worship is "Let Us Drink from the Stories That Sustain Us All" by Reverend Scott Taylor. We gather as a house of stories, as a shelter shot through with memories that speak, that long for us to listen, without which we easily lose our way. As we learn of those who have gone before, the way in front of us becomes more clear. As we attune ourselves to the many shoulders on which we stand, purpose, not want, and winning asserts itself as the logic of our lives. As we remember what they survived and how they sacrificed for the faceless us who would come after, we find a courage far beyond what we could muster on our own. Beneath the seemingly dry dirt and seemingly lonely roads, there are wells from which we can drink. Come, let our thirst guide us there. Come, let the sweet ghosts whisper their gifts. Come, let us drink from the web of memories that sustain us all.
Right. So Carolyn is going to light the chalice this morning while I announce our chalice lighting. This is from the Reverend Robin Shaw, and this is the chalice lighting for November's Soul Matters theme, Holding History. She writes, "We hold history when we light our chalice. We allow the memory of loved ones to guide us, to comfort us in times of trouble, to bring us joy in remembering. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. We square our shoulders for those who follow, to stand on our shoulders and move the work forward. We hold up the painful parts of our past, remembering the times people were marginalized, promising to do better when we know better. We recognize the impact we have on those who follow us, just as we have been impacted by the actions of those who came before, holding awareness of the earth and all her creatures. We light our chalice to hold the history of what came before, what will follow as history yet to be created, and to shine our light brightly in our world." I invite you to join me now in saying the words of our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth, thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you to listen or to hum along to our opening hymn, Raghupati. Thank you, Carmen, for that beautiful music. So our Share the Plate offering this morning goes to Faith in Texas, which is an organization of which Horizon is a part. It's a nonpartisan, multiracial, multi-faith, grassroots movement of people united in values, working together to achieve economic, racial, and social justice for all people. And so, as I said, Horizon has long been a part of Faith in Texas, and our members and friends have regularly contributed to their work for justice in the world. Next week, we are thrilled to have Reverend Robin Murray from Faith in Texas in our pulpit, and you'll learn more about that. So I invite you to visit our offering basket on the way out the door, and now listen to Carmen's beautiful music again. So Carolyn reminded me, first of all, that I never introduced myself. So I got so focused on all of the things I wanted to tell you, I didn't even tell you who I am. So I'm Meredith Barbour, for folks who may not have met me in person yet or who may have only seen me on our YouTube channel. And I'm the interim minister here at Horizon. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. And I'm now excited to welcome Bhaskar to our pulpit.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As you all may have seen, the Diwali signs are out everywhere. We just had our Diwali festival 2 days ago, 3 days ago. The new moon day is the celebration. Growing up, this was the best festival for us in the whole year. Hindus have lots of festivals. There are about 10 of them in a year. And this is the pinnacle of the festivals, so to speak, and every member of the family takes part in it, from the youngest to the oldest, and boys engage in all this firecrackers after dark, and women in the house light up the entire house with rows of lights, which is what the word literally means. Diwali is a festival of lights. And all the fun and joy of visiting friends and families and visiting temples. Of course, religion is an integral part of the festival. And then the spiritual aspect of it, it brings so many nostalgic memories back to life. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this today. A festival is a joyful synthesis and expression of spirituality, religion, philosophy, culture, service, and social values. The spiritual aspect is founded on the human instincts, of course, of joy and happiness. The philosophical aspect is grounded in the struggle between the forces of good and evil, with the ultimate triumph, of course, of the good, right? This struggle and the ensuring victory of the good is to be celebrated and used as a reminder to us and future generations that selfless service and giving are an interwoven part of the traditions. Traditionally, Diwali marks the beginning of the new year for Hindus in many parts of the country. It's not all. There are many ways of, many reasons for celebrating Diwali, and on the western front and the Gujarat state, this is a new year for Hindus. And many businesses, of course, start their new accounts and start new transactions. And symbolically, it's a new start in many aspects of life, including relationships with families and friends. And so it's sort of a reunion. It's a time for the community and family celebration with prayers through puja, the worship, and of togetherness, of sharing all resources, and of food and gifts. Today, Diwali is celebrated and enjoyed by most Indians, people of all faiths, and by people of the dharmic faiths, including which is Hinduism. Hinduism is a part of it. Everyone celebrates it through festive fireworks, lights, flowers, sharing of sweets, and worship. While the story behind Diwali varies from region to region, the essence of the celebration is the same: to rejoice in the inner light and understand the underlying reality of things, all things. The spiritual meaning of the word Diwali is, apart from physical, literal meaning, the festival of lights, is the awareness of the inner light. At the heart, Hindu philosophy emphasizes the presence of that which is pure, infinite, and eternal, which is something beyond the physical and the mind. Diwali is the celebration of the awakening and awareness of the inner light. Though it is not seen outside, this inner light outshines all darkness, removes all obstacles, and dispels all ignorance. It awakens the individual to one's true nature, not as the body, but as the unchanging, infinite, and transcendent reality. With this inner realization comes universal compassion, love and awareness of the oneness of all things. In Sanskrit, it says Satchidananda. Sat meaning the truth, Chit means a consciousness, and Ananda, the inner joy. For Hindus, this is the goal of life. Diwali is also a day of remembrance for our ancestors and a time for family reunions and building of strong family bonds. Essentially, to put it for us, it is New Year's Day, July 4th, Halloween, Day of the Dead, Thanksgiving, and Christmas all rolled into one festival. Diwali unifies every religion, every home, every heart, and India transcends into a land of myriad lambs on this occasion. Here in America, we are continuing this celebration, marking it as a unifying, pluralistic festival, advancing community service. We hope Hindu and the dharmic traditions of Diwali and America's commitment to service will illuminate innovative and empowering resources, both financial and spiritual, and spur the distribution and sharing of common values of pluralism and collaboration. In other words, e pluribus unum. May the spirit of Diwali bring joy, health, wealth, prosperity, and peace and spiritual enlightenment to all of you. Thank you.
Our first reading is Fragile and Rooted by Carolyn Owen Powell. See a blossom in your mind's eye. Allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Greater perfection of form in nature cannot be imagined. With inward gaze, absorb each wondrous fluted petal. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Immense your senses in this safe chamber. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Slowly reverse the journey as you ascend the shaft toward wider light. Turn your imagination around and around to see its many facets. Stored within is the memory of all flowers. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile, yet undaunted, boldly buds forth, turning resolutely toward the sun. We too shimmer with expectation, exuding our own illumination, color, pulse, and scent. Vulnerable, still we venture our lives courageously toward hope and light, at once fragile and rooted.
We come now to the time in our service where we'll share a time of silence and of prayer and meditation. Please listen with an open heart to the prayers and meditations of our community. Joy to be gathering in person again, and sorrow for the loss over the last 19 months of friends and family. I invite you now to breathe in a few breaths of silence. Loving God, Spirit of life, mystery in which we live and move and have our being, draw near to us this morning and hear our prayers. We come before you this morning, a people on the precipice of change, with excitement swelling among us, with joy rising from somewhere deep within us, somewhere that may have been closed off for many of us for a long time. This morning, let us be a people of curiosity and wonder. We give thanks this morning for crisp, cool, sunny days, for the chance to move our bodies. We give thanks for deep breaths, cool in through our noses, the chance to slow down and to pay attention to the little things around us. This is the beginning of living a life of awareness. This morning, we lament all the ways injustice grips our world. We are gathered here for the first time in a year and a half for in-person services, and yet the pandemic is not over. And all the problems that have come with it, the overwork, overwhelm, visceral unkindness sometimes toward one another, we are still at the mercy of our inhumane healthcare system, and our government refuses to acknowledge caregivers and parents. And all for what? For what? In certain ways, we've learned nothing. Or those in power have learned nothing. When will we start to understand that it's not about getting back to normal or to the before times? There's nothing to go back to. Everything has changed. We are entering a new time where those of us who care about one another and about a just world are going to keep showing up, keep loving, and keep caring in spite of a world that tells us to do otherwise. Spirit of life, help us to cling to what we know for sure, that we are put on this earth to love one another. Spirit, move through us as we learn to love one another well, for that is how we are going to begin to heal. May it be so. Amen. I invite you now to join in humming or in listening to our responsive hymn, Spirit of Life. I'd like to invite Madeira and Michael to come speak now.
Thank you. So, Madeira and I were both raised as Hare Krishnas, and that's a Western tradition of the Hindu faith, of course brought over by a teacher who wanted to spread the gospel of the Hindu tradition that he was part of, and came to New York City, and it quickly took root, and you may have seen them dancing on the streets or aggressively trying to shortchange people at the airport for their books, or giving out free food, including, for, many charitable causes. And it continues on today. The Krishna temple down in Dallas at Kalachandji's is mostly supported by Indian Hindus who have come and immigrated to America and continue to worship in the tradition of their birth. And we have mostly memories of Diwali that are connected with the way Hare Krishna is celebrated, except that I got to go in my youth to the Hindu heartland of India, and so my memories of Diwali are particularly of being a not quite teenager or an early teenager, we might call a tween today, I guess. I spent a couple of years in India and in Vrindavan particularly, which is one of the holy spots. If you worship Krishna, it's where Krishna engaged in his pastimes, the mythological life story that the things that he did. And my memories of Diwali in particular are of the beauty and the grandeur of what I can only describe as the stars in the sky for a few nights coming down to earth and being all around us everywhere you looked. Instead of it being dark at night, the stars are everywhere. The lights lit up on all the sides of all the important buildings and everyone in people's windows. And more than that, reflected in the eyes and smiles of the people around. Of course, life is not always generous and kind, but people can be, and especially at Diwali, people try to be. It's a time when you could feel the love, the unity, the coming together, the smile, like I said, in people's eyes and on their faces, reflecting the lights around us. And for one special night, it's magical. It's truly incredible. If you ever have the chance to go to India at Diwali time, you'll never forget.
My name is Madeira McKee, and yes, Michael and I met through our common upbringing, and we had a Hindu wedding. And the importance of fire in Hinduism, fire is a god, Agni Dev, and so you make your vows in front of the flame, and you circle around it 7 times. But so Diwali is the victory of Ram, and so we have all these lights, but light is a little bit more powerful than just that light. It's the representative of truth and hope and justice, and that has triumphed over evil. One of the traditions around Diwali time, and I included these pictures in most, if not all, of the orders of service, of a rangoli. And these would be, this is a Diwali tradition. I colored mine in. You're welcome to color yours in if you want.
There's some pencils and markers in the back.
And you'll see they're similar to a mandala, but much simpler. Because the reason they're simpler is because you would actually make these out of usually different kinds of flour, and actually both kinds of flour. Flower petals sometimes and real flowers, but a lot of times actually just rice flour, coconut flour with different colors. And you would carefully place on, prominently on a doorstep, different places you would have these beautiful rangolis. So I'm used to seeing these around Diwali as well, and it would be a tradition beforehand to spend all the time very carefully. These are very hard. Everything smudges together. It's difficult, so it's a lot easier to color it. But yes, I also have similar happy memories of Diwali, but more focused on this other West Indian, or I guess it was Vrindavan, north, called Govardhan Puja, and it's a story of how Krishna saved everybody from this torrential rain, and he lifted up an entire mountain on his little finger, and all of his whole village was all saved. And so that was the story because of the focus on Krishna. But also Ram was very important. So we would do lots of Ram Leela plays about the Ramayana. And so both Michael and I, at some point played, I have played Sita, I've played Ram, I would play Hanuman, the monkey god who helps Ram. And so Ram was a very big part as well. But just one last thing, just the reminder of the diya here in the middle just reminds me so much of a chalice, and it's just so beautiful, and just reminding me that we have to protect this fire. We have to protect this hope. It's so easy to just blow out the flame when we see so much injustice, the winds of injustice. But if we can keep our faith and our hope strong, good will triumph over evil.
Thank you to all of our speakers, to Michael and to Madeira and to Bhaskar. Apologies for going a little bit out of order, but it feels right. So our second reading this morning is called The Answer by Sarah Teasdale. When I go back to earth, and all my joyous body puts off the red and white that once had been so proud, if men should pass above with false and feeble pity, my dust will find a voice to answer them aloud. Be still, I am content. Take back your poor compassion. Joy was a flame in me, too steady to destroy. Lithe as a bending reed, loving the storm that sways her, I found more joy in sorrow than you could find in joy. Here ends the reading. So I have to say, it feels so surreal to be standing before you this morning. I've tried and tried again to picture this day, the time when it would be safe to get back together in person. I've been thinking about it since long before I knew all of you, and yet I've worried too about the safety of our people. And what I think I've learned is that there will never really be a right time. And throughout this time, safety has meant different things to different people. In March of 2020, I was a student minister at First Parish in Lincoln, Massachusetts. It's a little town outside of Boston, and it's very Gilmore Girls, if you know the show. There was always someone talking about something that happened at the town meeting. Bright red and orange leaves lined the highway. I would drive 3 days a week after class to the old white church building which held our offices. It was very different than what I had known before, very traditional, and I was curious. Things weren't perfect, but I would say they were really good. I was finishing my thesis, set to graduate from seminary that May, ready to start my internship in September, have my wedding in October. I had a whole plan. But of course, there were other things happening that no one could foresee. And it all changed really quickly. In mid-March, during what would have been spring break, I loaded up my car and drove with a friend first to her parents' house in South Carolina, and then all the way down to Louisiana to be with my husband, Kyle. We were living apart during my last year of school and counting down the months to our wedding. And on that cursed trip, all we had were coconut-scented Clorox wipes, the last ones we could find anywhere, and the Jessica Simpson audiobook to keep us company. We made it in one piece, but we were scared the whole way. And then the working from home started, and I got a tiny little desk and put it in front of our window, and there were days when it was Zoom after Zoom after Zoom, still working with the congregation, still going to school. In a way, we were all trying to pretend that nothing had changed, even though change was all around us. And I graduated from seminary one sunny May day, sitting on my couch, watching the pre-recorded graduation video. Started my internship, seeing faces pop up on a Zoom screen, and we canceled our wedding out of fear that our families and friends would get sick. And things were complicated. At times, it was hard to really let myself feel the sadness and frustration of these milestones we missed, because there was so much suffering all around the world. Someone always had it worse, but of course, everyone's problems are real to them. And the lesson we would all soon learn is that hiding from the truth doesn't make it go away. Our theme for this month is holding history, and that verb to hold is interesting. It reminds me of carrying groceries or a backpack full of books. Really, to me, it says, you are going to deal with this now, even if it's heavy. It reminds me of the famous Maya Angelou quote, "Once you know better, you do better." Many of us are on a collective journey, myself included, to unlearn some of the false truths that America lives by. For example, the idea that someone who works really hard will always be successful. We are now learning to hold many truths at the same time and beginning to understand that many of them don't feel good. This work of holding, of dealing with all of this stuff, will take a lifetime, and it is essential to our survival. I have wondered again and again about the way this time in history will be remembered. We each have our own stories to tell about the ways we've survived. I know you all have your own stories about what it's been like for you, and I share my own as an opening, an invitation to remember all you have been through that has brought you to this moment. The reason I'm saying all of this, reflecting on something that many of us may not want to hear any more about, is multifaceted. If we are to really hold history, to deal with the stories in front of us and to seek the truth, we start with ourselves. And the other reason is that we are now entering uncharted territory as a faith community. When it was time for church to move online, we all collectively, across the country and across the world, figured it out, with the help of colleagues and a lot of help from volunteers. But now we know that we cannot simply return to the way things were before. People of faith have said for a long time, the church is not the building, or the church has left the building. And that has always been true, though it's truer now. I think really the only good thing to come from the pandemic is the understanding that we need to remain accessible to more than just the people who can join us in this physical space on Sunday. Before I came to you, I watched people from Lincoln and then from Memphis learn to worship in a different way, to wave to one another on a Zoom screen, to take care of one another in new ways. They said goodbye to me and welcomed me. We built and honored relationships across distance in ways I will forever cherish. And so I know what is possible. There are more people who would like to worship with us, and to ignore that would be to fail at our mission to radically welcome. I believe that our message and our capacity for love is life-saving and life-changing, and would like to see it widely shared. So we begin our journey toward being a multi-platform church where there are multiple ways to participate and to be part of this community. I am so proud to be your minister this morning. One of my favorite sermons I ever heard when I was a little girl, maybe 9 or 10, the preacher said, "We don't come here every Sunday so that you can hang on my every word. It's not about listening to every little thing, but about letting your mind wander, letting the words wash over you. Because the purpose of the hour is to take this time to be still, to be with other people when we can, and to let ourselves feel." And I think there's something special that happens when we do this together as a community. As I said earlier, I've been wondering about our time, about the way people will remember all that we have been living through, about the way stories will flow from generation to generation, to our children and to our children's children. And one thing that has always given me hope is knowing that people before us have lived through hard times. We come from a long religious history of people who have wondered and prayed and cried and written and loved their way through life. Today, we celebrated Diwali, the Festival of Lights, and I am reminded of the creation of the Flaming Chalice as the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. I get asked sometimes by people who are new to or curious about our faith, about our chalice. What does it mean? And like many things in our tradition, the answer is complicated. The chalice was designed by artist Hans Deutsch while he worked with the Unitarian Service Committee in 1941. The Unitarian Service Committee worked tirelessly on the eve of World War II to help refugees to escape from Germany, and the logo was hastily designed to help their documents look more official, they thought. It's been said that the chalice was modeled on lamps lit by the ancient Greeks, but it sounds to me like it's all kind of open to interpretation. It's very you. But the idea of a flame at the center of our faith, burning along with our commitment to love one another and to work for a better world, that to me is radical. And in times when things were hard, people have always sought seasons of that light. This morning, we have so much to celebrate, to be grateful for, to be joyful about. And joy to me is not about just being happy about the absence of fear or of things going wrong. It's about listening for something deeper, knowing all of those things, but still allowing that feeling from within that wants to soar, to spread its wings. As Sarah Teasdale wrote in the poem we heard earlier, "Be still, I am content. Take back your poor compassion. Joy was a flame in me, too steady to destroy. Lithe as a bending reed, loving the storm that sways her, I found more joy in sorrow than you could find in joy." Joy is a fire that burns within us, that can come in the midst of sorrow, that can come despite fear about what the future may bring. And when that flame of joy finds us, let us lean into those seasons of light. So this morning, let us open our hearts to joy after a long time of uncertainty and frustration and sorrow. We do not forget, but we choose to open ourselves to this season of light. May it be so. Amen. And now we're going to do something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. We are going to bless this space that we are gathered in this morning. We've spent the morning acknowledging how much this occasion means to us, to be gathered together again. And I also wanted us to acknowledge and to honor this space with a blessing, an expression of love and gratitude, simply to be here this morning after all that we've been through. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes and picture some of the moments you've had in this space. Moments from another time. It might feel like another world. Picture times when you've laughed together, celebrated together, when your mind has been opened to something new. Picture the times that you've cried together, that you've mourned, the times you've held hurt in your heart. Remember all those who are here with us in spirit. If this place is new to you, or if you're joining us for the first time this morning, I invite you to picture in your mind's eye a place where you have known love. And now that you have these feelings of love and the significance of this place, I invite you to imagine a circle around this space. And in your mind, I want to invite you to draw that circle wider and wider still, wider until these feelings of love are sent out to everyone watching us at home, to everyone in our communities, to everyone in the world. This love has blessed our space and our time together this morning, and may it bless us still on this journey towards a new way of being together. May it be so. So I invite you to join now in humming or listening to our hymn, "May Nothing Evil Cross This Door."
We extinguish the flame of this chalice, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. We carry this commitment in our hearts because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. Thank you for being here today. It's been wonderful.
Friends, as we go forth from our time together this morning, let love radiate outward until we meet again. Go in peace.